Ash falls like black snow on the shoulders of a small figure crawling over slag. The air tastes of iron and old fires. Somewhere ahead, a horn screams and is cut short, as if a throat is crushed in a fist. The ground trembles under marching feet, and every tremor carries one thought: they have been seen. A white staff glows once, then is swallowed by smoke, leaving only a single bright ember in a child-sized hand. If this tale grips you, help it travel. Tap like, subscribe for more Middle-earth what-ifs, and tell everyone where you are watching from. Your comments steer the next divergence, and your support keeps these long roads lit. The divergence begins far from Mordor, beneath mountains that remember older darkness. In the black throat of Khazad-dûm, the Fellowship runs with lungs burning, boots slapping stone slick with centuries of damp. Behind them comes a sound like the cracking of the world and a heat that does not belong in a dead dwarf realm. The bridge over the chasm narrows to a single spine of rock, and the Balrog strides into view like a ruin that has learned to walk. Gandalf turns as he does in the remembered tale, and the others feel it, that cold settling in the heart when a leader becomes a wall. But this time, when the whip lashes out, it does not catch his ankle. It catches his staff. White wood splinters. The bridge shakes. For an instant, it seems the wizard is undone by the same cruel accident, and Frodo's hand rises to his mouth, the breath in his chest held like a scream trapped behind teeth. Then, Gandalf does something that even the stone seems to recoil from. He steps forward instead of back. And with his broken staff, he drives a shard of it like a spear into the Balrog's arm, not to wound flesh, but to pin shadow to rock. "Go!" he commands, voice raw, and his free hand opens, palm toward the chasm. Light blooms, not gentle, not comforting. It is the kind of light that makes every secret edge of a thing visible, that strips illusion like skin. The Balrog falters, its fire dimming under a sudden, unbearable clarity. The whip slackens, and in that heartbeat, Legolas looses an arrow that no one expects to matter. It strikes the whip's handle where it joins the creature's wrist, and the barbed cord snaps like a severed vein. The Fellowship spills over the bridge in a tangle of limbs and panic. Aragorn grabs Frodo by the shoulder, shoving him forward. Gimli's sob becomes a growl. Sam's eyes are wide enough to drink the darkness. Gandalf holds his ground. The Balrog's sword rises, and the world seems poised to repeat itself. But the wizard does not shout, "You cannot pass." He whispers something older, words that make the air thin and sharp. For an instant, the Balrog's flames gutter, as if remembered by water. Gandalf's body jerks, pain hammering through him, and his eyes flare like coals in a forge. Then he slams his broken staff down, and the bridge breaks, not beneath him, but beneath the Balrog alone. Rock shears with a scream. The demon falls, trailing sparks and rage into the abyss. A silence follows that is not peace, only stunned absence. Gandalf sways on the far side, alive, staff ruined, face grey with strain. He looks older than moments before, as if the mountain has taken its toll in years rather than in blood. He reaches for the ring of Narya beneath his robes and closes his fingers around it, not for power, but for steadiness. "Do not look back," he says, and his voice is smaller now. Not until daylight. The Fellowship flees into the eastern gate and stumbles into Dimrill Dale, where the first cold wind of the outside world hits their cheeks like a slap. Snow glitters on the mountains above them, clean and indifferent. For a moment, the contrast feels obscene. They reach Lorien with less grief than in the true history, and yet a new unease enters the Golden Woods, because Gandalf walks beneath Malorn boughs with a broken staff and a wound that does not bleed, but aches like destiny. Galadriel meets them in silver light. Her gaze rests on Gandalf longer than on any other. In that gaze, there is both relief and warning, as if she sees two roads and both are littered with bones. "You have paid, Mithrandir," she says softly. "Not enough," he answers. In Caras Galadon, when the Fellowship rests and the trees hum with ancient songs, the questions begin to seed themselves quietly. If Gandalf lives, what changes in the West? Does Saruman still hold the weather in his fist? Does Sauron's eye turn sooner? Can the ring be carried farther with a wizard beside it? Or does that very brightness draw the wolves? Frodo feels Gandalf watching him at night, not with suspicion, but with a sorrow that makes the ring heavier on its chain. The wizard speaks little, yet when he does, it is with a precision that cuts. He talks to Frodo alone beside the silver stream, where the water smells of stone and starlight. "You will be tempted to hope that strength can carry you," Gandalf says. "Hope is good, but strength is loud, and the enemy listens." Frodo's voice is small. "Then why come with me at all?" Gandalf's eyes lift to the canopy. "Because I have seen what loneliness does to a soul burdened beyond its measure, and because I am afraid. Afraid." The word lands like an unexpected weight. Wizards do not say such things. Galadriel offers Frodo her phial, as in the true tale, but she also offers something else, quietly, when Gandalf stands nearby. A new staff, pale wood crowned with a simple white crystal. Not a weapon, but a promise. Gandalf takes it with a bowed head, and for a moment his fingers tremble as if he remembers the feel of falling. Then the Fellowship departs down Anduin in elven boats. The river is cold, smelling of wet reeds and distant rain. It carries them south as if the world is trying to hurry them toward an ending. Boromir's restlessness grows with every mile. He watches Gandalf more than he watches the ring. There is a grim respect in him for the wizard's survival, but also a resentment, because Gandalf's presence makes Boromir's own arguments sound smaller. The man of Gondor hears the drums of war in his blood and wants a clear answer. Weapon or ruin, use or destroy. Gandalf gives him neither, only warnings. At Path Galen, the river breathes mist against the green slopes. This is where the Fellowship breaks in the known history, and this is where the new history opens its jaws. Frodo slips away, as he must. Sam follows, as he always will. Boromir finds Frodo first, as if fate insists on repeating itself. His voice cracks with need. "Give it to me," he says. And in him, the ring finds a crack like dry wood under pressure. But Gandalf is there, not behind Boromir, not as an accuser. He appears between them as quietly as fog, and Boromir stops short as if he has struck a wall. "Do not," Gandalf says. Boromir's hand is half-reached, trembling. His eyes are wet. Gondor needs it. Gandalf's gaze does not harden, and that is what shatters Boromir's last defense. A hard gaze would be an enemy. This is worse. Compassion. "Gondor needs you," Gandalf replies, voice low. Not a curse wearing a crown. Boromir makes a sound like a man drowning. He steps back. His sword slips from his fingers into the grass. I am sorry." Frodo stands frozen, the ring's chain biting his neck. Sam's hand clamps on Frodo's sleeve, a silent anchor. Gandalf turns to Frodo then, and there is no time to soften it. The ring has chosen its road. It will not wait for counsels. If you go now, the world may yet keep its breath." Frodo's eyes search his face. "You cannot come. The others need you." Gandalf looks toward the trees, where distant shouts already begin. Merry and Pippin's laughter from earlier days feels like a ghost in the air. He hears the branching paths of choice, like different winds and leaves. Aragorn will lead, because Aragorn must. Rohan will need aid, because Rohan always does. Gondor will bleed regardless. Yet, if Frodo walks into Mordor with only a gardener, the ring will have 2 easy throats to close. Gandalf makes his decision with the calm of a man stepping into water he knows will be cold. "I will come," he says. Sam's mouth opens. But what of Mr. Aragorn? Gandalf's hand rests briefly on Sam's shoulder. He will do what kings do. He will choose the hard road and pretend it was easy. A cry rises then, sharp and sudden. Orcs. The woods erupt with the sound of hunting. In the distance, Boromir's horn blares, desperate and brave, calling for help that cannot be everywhere at once. Gandalf's eyes close for a heartbeat. He turns to Frodo. "Now!" Frodo does not argue again. He cannot. The air is full of choices collapsing. They run. The narrative splits, and Middle-earth begins to feel the tear. In the trees, Aragorn hears Boromir's horn, and it is a sound that pulls him like a hook through the ribs. He charges toward it with Legolas and Gimli, feet pounding leaf litter into mud. They find Boromir amid fallen orcs, arrows bristling from him like black feathers. In the true tale, Boromir dies with confession and a king's blessing. Here, he lives long enough to see Aragorn's face, and long enough to say something that alters the war. "He did not take it," Boromir gasps, blood bright on his lips. The wizard, he went with them. Aragorn's head snaps up. Gandalf lives. Boromir's eyes glaze, then focus with effort. He chose the ring-bearer. Legolas' expression tightens. Then, who will turn the king of Rohan? Gimli swears under his breath, the sound like rock grinding. Aragorn feels the world shift under him, as if the map itself has moved. A wizard with a ring-bearer is both a shield and a beacon. Is it salvation, or a torch held high in a field of archers? Boromir grips Aragorn's sleeve weakly. "Do not let my city burn." "You have my word," Aragorn says, and it is the first time in this new history that he speaks like a king without flinching. Boromir dies. His hand falls open, empty, as if his last grasp is on air, and the grief is immediate, but there is no room to sit with it. Orc horns answer in the distance. Merry and Pippin are gone, taken. Frodo and Sam are gone, and now Gandalf is gone with them. 3 roads, 3 debts, 1 hourglass with sand running too fast. Aragorn chooses Merry and Pippin, because even kings must choose what they can save. He runs east with Legolas and Gimli into the night, and behind him, the river whispers of lost chances. Far away, the Shire feels none of this yet. In Hobbiton, the party tree stands bare in winter wind, and old Hamfast Gamgee stamps mud from his boots and frowns at the sky. A flock of crows crosses west to east, too many, too low. Something in the air makes dogs whine. Ordinary folk go on baking bread, feeding chickens, mending fences, unaware that the road ahead of their sons has changed, and that changed roads have a way of reaching back. South and east, Gandalf leads Frodo and Sam across rough country, avoiding roads, avoiding watchful eyes. His new staff leaves a pale scratch in the dirt with each step. He does not hurry them like a commander, but he does not let them linger. His urgency is quiet and relentless. At night, they sleep under cold stars and the land smells of wet earth and bruised grass. Frodo dreams of an eye opening in a sky of smoke, and this time, in the dream, there is a white spark beside him, too close. He wakes with the taste of ash in his mouth. On the third day, they feel it before they see it, the sensation of being followed, like a finger tracing the spine. Sam's head jerks up at small sounds, at the creak of branches. Frodo clutches his breast where the ring lies. Gandalf stops at the edge of a stony hollow. He raises his staff. The air hums, and for a heartbeat, even insects fall silent. "Come out," he says. A shape crawls from behind a rock, thin as hunger, eyes reflecting starlight. Gollum. In the true path, Frodo's mercy binds him. In this path, Gollum sees Gandalf and recoils as if burned. "Hiss," Gollum breathes. "White fire. It hurts us." Gandalf does not move. "You have followed long enough, Sméagol." At the name, the creature flinches. "Do not say it. It is not safe." Frodo's pity rises, instinctive and painful. "We will not hurt you," he says. Gollum's gaze darts to Frodo's neck, and desire sharpens his face. Then his eyes shift to Gandalf, and a new calculation enters, like a rat deciding which trap is weaker. Gandalf's voice softens surprisingly. "You know ways into Mordor." Gollum's lip curls. We do, but not for you." "What if it is for him?" Gandalf asks, nodding to Frodo. "He's small, he's burdened, he's not your enemy." Gollum's eyes narrow. "The precious has enemies, always enemies." Sam steps forward, anger in his throat. "And you are not?" Gollum bares his teeth. Gandalf's staff taps the ground once, and the sound is like a gavel in a courtroom. "We will make terms," Gandalf says. "You will guide. You will not touch him. You will not touch the ring. And if you try, you will learn that there are hands in this world that can close around your throat without leaving a mark." Gollum shudders, and a whisper of fear moves through him. Yet fear alone would not bind him for long. Gandalf knows it, and so he offers the one hook stronger than threat. "If the ring is destroyed," Gandalf says, "its voice in your mind will fall silent. No more burning, no more whispering, only your own thoughts." For a long moment, Gollum's face looks almost human in its longing. Then the hunger returns. "Lies," he spits, but his eyes betray him. He wants to believe. "Is it a lie?" Gandalf murmurs. "Or is it the only chance you will ever have?" Thus the guide is gained, but the bargain is fragile as ice. To the north, Merry and Pippin are dragged through mud and brambles, wrists bound, mouths gagged, and their small bodies jolt with each kick and stumble. Orcs argue over them, voices harsh as broken stone. They speak of Isengard, of Saruman's will. In the true tale, the Rohirrim find and burn the orc band. Here, Rohan is slower to stir. In Edoras, Theoden sits in a hall that smells of smoke and stale ale, eyes clouded not only by age, but by a whispering poison that has had longer to work. Wormtongue stands close, a shadow that speaks with a soft voice. Without Gandalf to break the spell, the king's shoulders sag deeper. The guards are tired men who dream of open fields and wake to closed doors. Outside, winter wind scours the plains. A rider arrives with news of orcs crossing the borders, of villages burned, of children missing. Yoma's fist tightens. He asks for leave to ride. Wormtongue's smile is thin. Why waste riders on rumours? He purrs. The king needs rest. Éowyn watches from the edge of the hall, her hands clenched until her nails cut her palms. She feels the slow suffocation of her people and cannot find the lever to lift it. She thinks of a wizard in grey who once came, and she wonders if he died as rumour said. if he lives? And why does he not come? In Isengard, Saruman stands at Orthank's window, listening to distant thunder and to nearer drums. The air around his tower stinks of tar and sweat and felled trees. He hears, through Palantir visions and spies, a rumor that should not be possible. Mithrandir has not fallen. Mithrandir has chosen the road to Mordor. Saruman's fingers tighten on the stone ledge. His voice is soft, almost affectionate. Then the game is faster than I thought. He sends more riders, more Creebane, more eyes. If Gandalf escorts the ring, Saruman must either intercept or ensure that Sauron sees and devours them both. Either outcome leaves Saruman room to maneuver among the ruins. In Gondor, Denethor sits beneath the white tree that has not yet blossomed, and he too holds a seeing stone, and in its depths he sees a brief, terrible glimmer, a white figure walking with a small one under a sky that is turning red. He calls for Faramir. When Faramir arrives, the steward's eyes are fever-bright. "A wizard goes into the east," Denethor says. "Do you know why?" Faramir answers carefully. "Rumors move like smoke. They sting and vanish." Denethor leans forward. "You will find him. There is command in it, but also fear. Denethor has always feared what he cannot control, and a wizard moving without his leave feels like a knife behind his back." Faramir bows. "As you command." He does not say what he thinks, that if Gandalf truly goes to Mordor, then the war stands on the edge of a blade, and any foolish strike may tip it into catastrophe. In the wild, Gandalf, Frodo, Sam, and Gollum move east, into the broken lands where the ground grows stony and the grass thins. The air cools at night, and the stars feel farther away. The smell changes first, less green, more dust, and beneath it, a faint taint like a burned coin. They reach the dead marshes as the sky turns leaden. Fog lies low, and the water is black, holding the faces of the dead like pale fruit under glass. Frodo stares into it and sees a corpse with a helm, eyes open, mouth frozen in a soundless scream. The temptation is not only to look, but to join, to lie down and let the burden sink. Gandalf grips Frodo's shoulder hard. "Do not," he says. Frodo's voice is distant. "Do they see us?" Gollum giggles, high and brittle. They see. They always see. They do not blink. Sam's boots squelch, and each step pulls at him as if the marsh wants his feet. He mutters to himself to keep fear from swallowing him. He thinks of the Shire, of warm kitchens, none of the smell of bread. That smell feels like a story told by someone else. Above them, a Nazgûl passes, a shadow on a shadow, and the air goes thin with dread. Frodo's heart stutters. The ring tugs at his mind like a hooked fish. Gandalf lifts his staff and does not unleash fire. He does not dare. Instead, he does something subtler. He begins to sing under his breath, not loud, barely audible, a line of old words that taste like clean water. The song does not banish fear, but it gives it a shape, a boundary, as if dread is a storm seen through a window instead of inside the room. The Nazgûl circles once, sensing something, then moves on. In the distance, the shriek fades like a knife withdrawn. Frodo exhales, shaking. It knows you are here. Gandalf's answer is quiet. It knows enough, but not everything. That is the first question planted in the minds of the watchers of this alternate world. Does Gandalf's presence protect Frodo, or does it draw the eye faster? The answer will be both, and the cost will be paid in blood elsewhere. When they reach the Slag Hills near the Morannon, the Black Gate looms like the mouth of a beast. Towers rise, and the metal of them drinks the dim light. The smell is unmistakable. Smoke, oil, sweat, and something like fear baked into stone. Frodo's knees weaken. Sam's hands curl into fists. Gollum begins to tremble, not from cold. Gandalf studies the gate, and his mind races through maps, through possibilities. He knows the simple truth that the others do not. If they attempt the gate, they will die. Not heroically, not with speeches. They will be pinned to the ground and searched, and the ring will be taken. Gollum whispers, "Not there, not there. It is watched, always watched." "Then where?" Sam snaps. Gollum licks his lips. There is another way. Up the stairs. The secret stairs. Frodo remembers the name he has not yet heard in this history, but which waits like a trap in the dark. Cirith Ungol. Gandalf's eyes narrow. "Speak clearly." Gollum's voice turns sly, rehearsed. A pass, high, and a tunnel. The spiders. But it is a way. Sam's face twists. Spiders? Gollum smiles, and it is not a human expression. She is hungry. Gandalf's mind flashes forward. He does not know every detail, but he senses a rot in that suggested path, like meat left too long in the sun. And yet the other options are worse. He could attempt to call on eagles, but the thought is absurd here. Not only because the enemy would see, but because fate in Middle-earth does not hand out clean rescues. He could try to rally men, but time is blood. He could go alone, but the ring does not belong on his hand, and he knows it with a certainty that is almost terror. "Very well," Gandalf says. "We will take your way." Gollum's eyes gleam. Sam's hand goes instinctively to his small sword. Frodo's fingers brush the ring under his shirt, and the metal feels warmer than it should. While the ring-bearer turns toward the Isilduath, the west begins to crack. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli run across the plains of Rohan with a speed that seems inhuman, driven by desperation and by the faint hope that hobbits are harder to kill than they look. They find the remnants of the Orc band, scattered and burned not by Rohirrim, but by something else. A sudden flash flood from a storm that Saruman has called down. Bodies lie tangled in reeds. The air smells of wet ash. They find Merry and Pippin's footprints leading away, and with them the drag marks of exhaustion. The trail leads toward Fangorn. Fangorn is older than Fear, and its smell is deep earth and sap and slow decay. The trees stand like judges. The light under the canopy is green and dim. When Merry and Pippin stumble into it, coughing, hungry, they expect death. Instead, they meet Treebeard, and his eyes hold ages like rings in wood. He lifts them gently, as if they are curious insects, and his voice rumbles like distant thunder. "Little ones," he says. "What is afoot?" Pippin's voice shakes. "War." Treebeard's slow blinking is like a mountain shifting. He begins to speak of Saruman's axes, of trees felled, of anger that has been growing like a storm. In the true history, Gandalf's return accelerates the Ents, directs them, gives them urgency. Here, no wizard comes. The Entmoot takes longer, too long. As Treebeard debates with himself and with others, Saruman's furnaces burn hotter. The smoke over Isengard thickens, and the river Isen runs grey and foul. Ordinary folk along its banks cover their mouths with cloth and wonder why the fish float belly up. In Edoras, Theoden's condition worsens. One morning, a rider's horse collapses in the snow, foam at its mouth, and the rider carries news. An army is moving from Isengard, larger than any before. Villagers in the Westfold have gone silent. Eomer breaks the king's orders at last. He gathers men, rides out, and Wormtongue calls him traitor. Eowyn watches her brother ride away with a look that is half pride, half dread. Theoden, alone with his poison, whispers in the night, "Where is the Grey Pilgrim?" No one answers. In Gondor, Faramir leads rangers into Ithilien, where the air smells of crushed herbs and the shadow of Mordor lies heavy. He moves through ruins where ivy crawls over broken stone. His men whisper of strange lights in the east, of a pale flame that flares and vanishes like a signal. They do not know it is Gandalf's staff, carefully muffled, because Gandalf does not allow himself to blaze openly. He moves like a thief with a lantern shielded by his cloak. And yet, near the crossroads where a fallen king's head lies carved in stone, they are seen. Faramir's men catch them at dusk. Bows are drawn. The rangers' faces are hard from war. When they see Frodo and Sam, they hesitate. When they see Gandalf, their posture changes entirely, as if a legend has stepped out of a song and into their ambush. Faramir steps forward, eyes narrowing. Mithrandir. Gandalf inclines his head. Faramir, son of Denethor. Frodo looks between them, confused. Sam's suspicion rises like a hackle. Gollum melts into shadow, unseen, but listening. Faramir's voice is controlled. "My father seeks you." Gandalf's reply is immediate. "Then your father has lost his sense." A few men chuckle nervously, then fall silent at Faramir's glance. Faramir studies Frodo's small face, the way his hand drifts toward his chest as if guarding something. He sees the burden without being told. He has the same temptation Boromir had, but in him it meets a stronger wall. Wisdom and a quiet humility. "You carry the weapon of the enemy," Faramir says softly, not to accuse, but to name it. Frodo's mouth goes dry. "Yes." Faramir exhales. "Then you are either the bravest creature in this age or the most doomed." Gandalf's eyes flick to the east, to the dark line of the mountains. "We have no time for captain's riddles." Faramir's jaw tightens. "And yet, if I let you pass and my father learns I had you in my hands, I will be judged, perhaps executed." Gandalf steps closer, lowering his voice. This is one of those conversations that reveals character like a lantern reveals a room. "Faramir," he says, "you are not your father's instrument. You are your own man, and you will be measured not by Denethor's fear, but by what you choose when no one is watching." Faramir's eyes flicker. "Do you think I do not know what my father is becoming?" Gandalf's gaze is kind, and that kindness is almost unbearable in a world that is sharpening its knives. "I think you have carried that knowledge alone for too long." For a moment, Faramir's composure cracks. He looks away, toward his men, toward Ithilien's battered beauty. Then he looks back at Frodo and his voice shifts. "Where do you go?" "Mordor," Frodo says. Faramir's lips press together. "By what road?" Gollum cannot help himself. From the dark, his whisper slides out like oil. The secret stares. Every ranger turns. Blades flash. Gollum freezes, eyes wide, caught. Sam growls. "He has been guiding us." Faramir's gaze hardens. That creature is a liar. Gandalf does not deny it. Yes. Faramir's men look to their captain, waiting for the order to kill the wretch. It would be easy. It would feel just. Frodo steps forward. His voice shakes, but holds. "Do not." Faramir's eyes narrow. "He has eaten men." "Perhaps," Frodo says, and his honesty is a small knife. "But if we kill everyone who has fallen into darkness, who will be left to return?" That question hangs, and it deepens the unease. Is mercy wisdom, or is it the flaw that will doom them? Faramir makes his choice. He orders his men to stand down. He gives Gandalf food and water. He gives them cloaks that smell of leather and smoke. He gives them a warning. "My father's sight is troubled," he says. "He sees enemies everywhere. If he learns you passed through my hands, he will not forgive it, not even if you save the world." Gandalf's mouth tightens. Then he will have his tragedy. Faramir watches them go, and in his heart a cold certainty grows. He has just severed himself from his father. He has chosen the world over blood. When they are gone, he turns to his men. "We return to Osgiliath," he says. "The shadow comes." In Minas Tirith, Denethor waits, and his waiting curdles into rage. The White City's streets are crowded with refugees from the Pelennor and beyond. Ordinary people sleep in doorways, wrapped in damp blankets, their breath a faint mist in the cold. Bakers work through the night, hands raw, because hunger is another enemy. Denethor stands on the high wall and looks east. He smells smoke on the wind long before fires are visible. He whispers to himself, "Gandalf will steal my city from me. He will make a king of the Ranger." In this alternate history, Gandalf is not there to argue with him, not there to blunt his despair. Denethor's mind turns inward like a collapsing tunnel. The Palantir shows him 1,000 enemies and never shows him hope. Meanwhile, the ring moves closer to the mountains, and the land itself seems to resist it. The Ifilduith rises like broken teeth. The air is thinner, colder, and full of a distant rumble that might be thunder or might be the mountain's heart. The path Gollum leads them on is narrow, and each stone is sharp enough to cut through souls. The sky above is a dull bruise, and the sun is a pale coin behind soot. They begin to climb the long stairs carved into the rock. Sam slips once and scrapes his palms, hissing in pain. Frodo's breathing becomes ragged. Gandalf, though he appears stronger than a hobbit, carries a weariness that goes deeper than muscles. He has walked many roads in this world, and now he walks the road he hoped never to tread, into the mouth of his enemy. At a ledge overlooking the Morgul Vale, they see Minas Morgul, and the sight is a sickness. The city glows with a corpse light, and green and cold. The air from it smells of rot and flowers, a sweet decay that turns the stomach. Frodo sways, clutching his chest. Gandalf grips him. "Do not look long," he says. Below, a host begins to move. Black banners, spears, the Witch King's army gathering for Minas Tirith. In the true tale, Aragorn and the Rohirrim are already drawn into their arcs, propelled by Gandalf's presence. Here, the host seems more assured, less hurried. Sauron feels fewer interruptions. Gandalf watches, and a hard thought forms. By choosing to go with Frodo, he has weakened the West's visible leadership. He has concentrated hope into a single, fragile thread. Is this the wise move? Or has he made the classic error of the powerful, believing the central mission outweighs the needs of the many? He does not speak the doubt aloud. Frodo has enough weight already. They climb again, and the air grows colder. Gollum becomes more animated the closer they get to the tunnel. His eyes shine with anticipation that is not joy. Sam watches him and mutters, "He is leading us into a trap." Gandalf answers, "Yes." Sam stops mid-step, shocked. Then why follow? Gandalf looks back down the stairs, where the open world lies. Because the other paths are worse. That is not comfort, it is truth. They reach the tunnel's mouth as night falls. The opening is a dark wound in the rock, rimed with faint webbing that catches the wind. The smell is wrong, stale, sweet, like old meat hidden under cloth. Sam retches. Gollum's voice is a whisper of reverence. She is there. She is always there. Frodo's voice is thin. Shelob. Gandalf's eyes narrow. You know her name. Frodo swallows. The ring tells me things. Gandalf's face tightens, and in that tightness is fear for Frodo's mind, and for what will happen when they finally reach fire. They enter. The tunnel is narrow at first, walls slick with moisture. Then it widens into chambers that swallow sound. Their footsteps become muffled. The darkness is thick, not merely absence of light, but presence of something hungry. Gandalf lifts his staff, and a small light blooms at its tip, far dimmer than his power could make. Even that small light seems to stir the air. The webs appear like pale curtains. They brush Sam's face, and he flinches, wiping at them in disgust. The silk is sticky, cold. Frodo's breath comes fast. Gollum has vanished again, moving ahead like a shadow. Deeper in, they find bones. Some are small, some large. Helmets lie cracked, rusted. A broken sword, eaten by time. The remains of a man's hand still wearing a ring that is not the ring. Sam whispers, "People came this way." Gandalf's answer is a murmur and did not return. A sound comes then, a faint clicking like stones tapping together. It grows louder, rhythmic, patient. Frodo freezes. Sam's hand goes to his sword. Gandalf's staff rises. Shelob descends. She is not merely a spider. She is an ancient malice wearing flesh. Her body fills the chamber, her legs like pillars, her eyes clustered and gleaming with a wet, cold intelligence. The stench of her is overwhelming. Rot, venom, the sourness of fear. In the true tale, Frodo is stung, and Sam fights alone, driven by love into impossible courage. Here, the presence of Gandalf shifts everything, and yet it does not remove the horror. It concentrates it. Shelob senses the wizard's light and hisses, and the sound is so loud that dust shakes from the ceiling. She lunges. Gandalf's light flares. He speaks a word that cracks like lightning. Fire leaps, white-hot, searing through web and air. Shelob recoils, shrieking, and the sound is a knife in the skull. But Shelob is not like an orc. She does not fear as lesser things do. Pain enrages her. She strikes again, and this time her massive abdomen swings, and a spray of sticky webbing shoots out, binding Sam's legs. He falls, yelling. Frodo rushes toward him, and in that moment Shelob's stinger flashes like a black spear. Gandalf moves faster than any old man should. He throws himself between stinger and hobbit. The stinger pierces him. Not through flesh alone, but through whatever mortal shape his spirit wears. Gandalf gasps, the sound harsh, and for a heartbeat, his eyes blaze with a terrible light. He strikes Shelob with his staff, not a gentle blow, but a furious one, and the crystal at its head shatters against her carapace. White light explodes through the chamber. Shelob screams and retreats, blinded, wounded, but not slain. She scuttles into dark passages, her legs scraping rock like iron on stone. The light fades. Silence returns in a rush. Gandalf stands swaying, one hand pressed to his side where the venom burns. His face is pallid, sweat gleaming on his brow. Sam struggles in the web, frantic. Frodo stares, horrified. "Gandalf," Frodo breathes. The wizard's voice is strained. "Do not waste time." Sam hacks at the web with his sword, crying out, "Hold on, sir." Gandalf's eyes meet Frodo's, and in them is an urgency that is not fear of death, but fear of failure. "Listen," he says. "If I fall here, you must go on. You must not turn back." Frodo shakes his head. "You cannot die." Gandalf's mouth twitches, almost a smile. "I can. That is the point." He staggers. Sam finally frees himself and catches the wizard's arm. Then, from the darkness ahead, Gollum appears, eyes wide, mouth wet with excitement. He sees Gandalf wounded, sees Frodo shaken, sees the ring under Frodo's shirt as if he can smell it. This is the betrayal that has been simmering since the first bargain. Gollum leaps, not at Frodo, but at Gandalf's belt, clawing for the pouch where the wizard keeps herbs and flint and small necessities. He is not stealing supplies. He is creating chaos. Sam lunges, but Gollum bites his hand, tearing skin. Sam yells. Frodo stumbles backward, and his fingers close around the ring through cloth, as if instinctively. Gandalf, even poisoned, moves with sudden force. He grabs Gollum by the throat and lifts him off the ground. For a moment, it seems the creature will be strangled. Gollum's legs kick, his eyes bulge. Frodo watches, and the weight of mercy and necessity collides in him like two stones. "Gandalf," Frodo whispers. "Do not." Gandalf's grip tightens, and his eyes flick to Frodo, then to the dark corridor that leads out. He sees the path ahead, and he sees how many more betrayals it will contain if Gollum lives. He sees, too, the prophecy-like shape of this creature's role. He does not know the ending, but he senses that Gollum is a hinge on which some door will turn. He releases him. Gollum drops, coughing, and scuttles away into the darkness, laughing between gasps. Sam stares at Frodo, furious and bewildered. He will come back. Frodo's voice is broken. "I know." Gandalf sways. "And yet, we cannot be what we fight." They leave the tunnel, limping, into the harsh air of Mordor's edge. Gandalf's wound burns. His steps are heavier. Each breath sounds like it scrapes his lungs. Above them, the sky is not sky as the Shire knows it. It is a lid of smoke, with a red glow behind it. The land is ash and slag and jagged stone. The smell is constant: sulfur, burned oil, and the stale odor of industry without life. Somewhere in the distance, drums beat, and each beat is like a pulse of a giant heart. They move along the Morgai, and the land offers no hiding except in shadows that feel hostile. Gandalf's presence is a pale beacon even when he suppresses it. Orc patrols pass nearby, voices barking. Once, a captain pauses, sniffing the air like a dog. Frodo's heart pounds so hard he thinks it will be heard. Gandalf murmurs, still. The orc moves on. The three figures remain pressed into a fold of rock, breathing shallowly. In the west, war ignites without its usual sparks. At Helm's Deep, the people of Rohan do not gather in time. Theoden delays too long. Wormtongues poison too thick. Éomer fights skirmishes in the field, brave but outnumbered. Without Gandalf to rally, without the urgent push toward the Hornburg, the Rohirrim are scattered when Saruman's main host arrives. Night is filled with fire and screaming. Farms burn. The smell of burning thatch and flesh rolls over the plains. Women and children flee into the cold, feet bleeding on frozen ground. Wolves follow. Éowyn rides out with a small band, not because she is permitted, but because she cannot bear to wait for annihilation. She finds bodies in the snow, faces frozen in surprise. She hears the distant roar of Isengard's army and knows her people are being eaten alive. She whispers into the wind, "Gandalf, where are you?" No answer comes, only the howl of a wolf and the crackle of fire. In Minas Tirith, Denethor's paranoia swells. He receives word that Faramir let a wizard pass. The steward's hands tremble, not with grief, but with rage that is almost relief. At last, a betrayal he can name. He summons Faramir, but the captain is already on the field at Osgiliath, where the river runs black under smoke. The fighting there is brutal. Men slip on blood-wet stone. Arrows hiss. The air is full of shouted orders and choking dust. Faramir's men die around him, one by one, and the stink of fear mixes with the stink of the river. A fell beast circles overhead. A Nazgûl's scream slices through the sky. Men drop their weapons and, clutching their heads, some leap into the water to escape the sound. Faramir holds, not because he is fearless, but because he refuses to let terror be his master. He looks east and thinks, absurdly, of a hobbit in Mordor. He thinks of Gandalf's eyes. He wonders if those eyes will ever see daylight again. Then he is struck, not by a blade, but by despair made physical. A blow to the head, a fall, a darkness closing in. His men drag him away, half dead, and bring him to Minas Tirith. Denethor sees his son carried like a corpse, and something in him snaps. In the true tale, Gandalf stands between Denethor and madness. Here, no one stands. Denethor orders a pyre built. The servants obey, weeping, because a steward's command is law, and also because fear makes cowards of good people. They carry wood, they pour oil, their hands shaking. The air in the Hall of the Dead fills with the sharp smell of pine and the heavier smell of lamp oil. Faramir lies unconscious, pale, breathing faintly. Denethor sits beside him, stroking his hair like a man pretending to be tender. "You always chose others over me," he whispers. "Now you will not choose at all." Outside, the city shudders under the first blows of siege. Grond has not yet come, but the darkness presses. The people on the streets hear rumors. The steward has lost his mind. They look east and see fires. They look up and see wings, and still no wizard arrives to seize the reins of hope. Back in Mordor, Gandalf's strength wanes. The venom from Shelob is not like ordinary poison. It is ancient, designed to unmake. He feels his mortal body fray at the edges. His vision blurs at times, and the red glow in the sky becomes a smear. Frodo notices. His fear becomes a cold stone in his stomach. "Are you dying?" Frodo asks, voice barely audible. Gandalf answers after a pause. "Yes." Sam's throat tightens. "Can you not? Do something!" Gandalf's eyes flick to Sam, and there is gentleness there. "I have done many things. There are limits." Frodo's fingers curl around the ring beneath his shirt. It seems to pulse, almost like a living thing, and in its pulse is a whisper. Take it off, put it on, vanish, survive. He asks the question that matters, and it is one of the few rhetorical ones that carry weight. If Gandalf falls, what hope remains for a hobbit under the eye? Gandalf, as if hearing the unspoken, speaks anyway. "Hope does not live in me. It never did. It lives in choices. Yours." They move onward toward Mount Doom, guided now not by Gollum, but by Gandalf's memory of maps and by the faint pull Frodo feels, as if the ring itself knows the way home. Gollum returns, of course. He trails them at a distance, unseen, occasionally glimpsed as a pale twitch behind rocks. Sam throws stones and curses. Frodo begs Sam to save his breath. Gandalf says nothing. He saves his breath too for a different reason. At last they reach the ash plains. The ground is soft in places, like powder. Their feet sink and drag. The air is hot, and each breath tastes of soot. Above, the mountain looms, its slopes streaked with old lava like scars. They see the road below, and on it an endless stream of orcs and men marching west to crush Gondor. The scale is dizzying. Frodo's knees wobble. Sam whispers, "How can anyone fight that?" Gandalf's voice is hoarse. They cannot. Not by strength alone. This is the grim answer to the early question. Gandalf's absence in the West has allowed Sauron's war machine to roll forward with fewer delays. The ring's quest is now not merely important, but the only lever left. They climb the mountain's lower slopes as thunder mutters. The heat rises. Frodo's skin feels too tight. Sam's lips crack. Gandalf's face is slick with sweat, his beard clumped. Halfway up, they find an orc patrol resting in a hollow, laughter harsh, a stolen wineskin passed around. The orcs do not expect intruders here. The mountain itself is a guard. Gandalf raises his hand, and for a heartbeat, the world seems to hold its breath. He could unleash fire and be done with them, but fire would shout their presence to the sky. Instead, he does something quieter and crueler. He whispers, and the shadow around the orcs thickens, crawling into their ears. The orcs suddenly turn on one another, snarling, suspicious. A knife flashes. Blood sprays hot onto black stone. One orc gurgles and falls. Another screams. In seconds, the patrol becomes a slaughter, and the survivors stumble away, wounded, cursing. Sam stares, sickened. You made them. Gandalf's voice is hollow. I gave their hatred a direction. Frodo looks away. The burden is not only the ring. It is the knowledge that even good men must sometimes choose evil tools. Near the summit, the air becomes almost unbreathable. The tunnel to Sammath Naur lies ahead, a dark mouth exhaling heat. The mountain's rumble becomes constant, like a deep growl. They enter, and the world turns into firelight and shadow. The walls sweat. The floor is cracked, heat seeping up. The smell is sharp, and like metal being forged. Frodo steps slow, as if the air has thickened into syrup. The ring grows heavier, dragging at his neck, pulling his head down. Gandalf walks beside him, limping now, each step an effort. Sam trails, eyes darting, terrified of losing either of them in this furnace. At the crack of doom, the chamber opens. A narrow ledge. Below, molten fire churns like a living sea. Heat blasts up, drying eyes, searing lungs. The roar is immense, drowning thought. Frodo stands on the brink, swaying. His hand grips the ring, and for a moment it seems the story will end cleanly. A small hand, a small choice, a world saved. Then the ring speaks with a voice that is not sound, but certainty. Frodo straightens. His face changes, not into something monstrous, but into something resolved. The burden has worn him into a blade, and now the blade turns. I have come, Frodo says, voice steady, and the words are like a verdict. But I do not choose now to do what I came to do. Sam's breath catches. Mr. Frodo. Frodo lifts the ring. The gold gleams in the firelight, beautiful and hateful. His eyes are bright with tears that evaporate before they fall. The ring is mine, he says. In that instant, Gandalf feels a coldness deeper than the mountain's heat. He feels the disaster lock into place. He also feels something else. The eye's attention snap toward them like a whip. Frodo puts the ring on. He vanishes. Sam cries out, reaching into empty air. No! Gandalf's eyes close, and he speaks into the roaring heat, not to Frodo's ears, but to his spirit. Frodo, listen. Frodo's voice comes from nowhere and everywhere, strained. It is mine. I can see them all. The eye. It is looking for me. But I am here, and it is not enough. Gandalf steps closer to the edge, feeling the heat bite into his skin. You cannot wield it, he says, voice rising. No one can. Not you, not I, not any king. It will consume you, and through you, it will return. Frodo's invisible laughter is small and broken. Then what was the point of all of this? What was the point of suffering? Gandalf's voice softens, and in it is everything he has tried to teach. The point was always choice, even now. Sam sobs, reaching out, hands trembling. "Please, Mr. Frodo, please." A scraping sound comes from behind them. Gollum. He has followed, starving, driven by the ring like a hound driven by scent. His eyes are wild. His mouth hangs open, drool shining in the firelight. "He has it," Gollum wheezes. "He has the precious." Sam whirls, sword up. "Stay back." Gollum does not. He lunges, not for Sam, but for the invisible Frodo, hands grasping at air. His fingers brush something unseen, and Frodo cries out. They struggle, invisible and visible bodies colliding. Sam swings, but he cannot see where to strike. He hits rock instead. Sparks fly. Gandalf watches, and he knows this is the hinge. This is the moment mercy purchased. This is the moment Gollum was spared for. Yet it is chaos, and chaos does not guarantee the right ending. A single slip could mean the ring-bearer fleeing into Mordor with the ring, and the world ending under a shadow that lasts until the seas dry. Gandalf acts. He steps forward and seizes Gollum by the shoulder, wrenching him away. Gollum shrieks, clawing at Gandalf's face. His nails rake skin. Blood beads and instantly dries in the heat. Gandalf's grip tightens. "Enough," he says, and there is command in it, the authority of something older than kings. Gollum snarls. "We will have it!" He bites. His teeth sink into Gandalf's wrist, and the wizard flinches, not from pain alone, but from the sudden flare of venomous hunger. In that flinch, Gollum slips free. He leaps again, and this time his hands close around the ring, because Frodo, in his struggle, has pulled it off for a heartbeat, whether by accident or by some last shred of sanity. Gold flashes in firelight. Gollum screams with joy so intense it becomes agony. Precious. He dances backward on the ledge, clutching it. His feet teeter on the brink. Sam lunges, face contorted. "Give it back!" Gollum's heel slips on the hot stone. For a fraction of a second he hangs, arms windmilling, eyes enormous. The ring gleams in his hand like a tiny sun. He falls. His scream drops into the roar of the fire, and the ring goes with him, swallowed by molten ruin. The sound that follows is not an explosion at first, but a deep, shuddering groan, as if the world itself exhales after holding its breath for an age. Frodo appears again, collapsed on the ledge, empty-handed, eyes wide and blank as if he has been scraped hollow. Sam crawls to him, gathering him close, sobbing into his hair. Gandalf stands trembling, face streaked with dried blood, wrist bitten, side burning. Relief washes through him in a fierce wave, so strong his knees nearly buckle. "It is done," Sam whispers, scarcely believing. "It is done," Gandalf repeats, and for a heartbeat it sounds like peace. Then the mountain begins to tear itself apart. The chamber shakes. The cracks spider through the rock. Fire spurts from fissures. The roar grows into a scream. Ash billows up the tunnel like a living thing. Gandalf grabs Sam and Frodo. "Move!" he commands, voice suddenly sharp, as if all his remaining strength has been saved for this. They stumble, half carrying Frodo, who can barely walk. The tunnel becomes a furnace, heat blasting their backs. Stones fall, smashing, sending shards skittering. Sam coughs, choking on ash. Outside, the sky splits with lightning. Mount Doom erupts, a column of fire and smoke punching upward. The shockwave hits like a giant hand. They are thrown to the ground on the slope, rolling over ash and rock, skin scraped raw. Below, the plains of Mordor convulse. Towers in the distance tremble. The dark Barad-dûr itself begins to crack, its foundations unraveling as if the world has finally remembered it should not exist. And far away in Minas Tirith, people look up from their terror and see a change in the light. The oppressive darkness thins. A wind rises, carrying ash away. The Nazgûl scream one last time, a sound of sudden, shocked annihilation, and then silence. In the Hall of the Dead, Denethor stands over Faramir's pyre, torch in hand, eyes wild. The city trembles under the siege, but now something else trembles too. Denethor's certainty. He feels through the Palantir an emptiness where a great will once pressed. He falters. "What is this?" he whispers, and for the first time in years, the question is not accusation, but fear of being wrong. A servant bursts in, soot-streaked, eyes wide with disbelief. "My lord," he cries, "the shadow is lifting." Denethor's hand shakes. The torch drops, its flame licking at the oil-soaked wood. Fire catches. Faramir's unconscious body lies too close. Denethor stares, and instead of rushing to save his son, he steps back, as if the fire is an answer he deserves. It is then that the city's transformed fate arrives not as a wizard's staff at the door, but as a captain of the guard with tears in his eyes and a sword in his hand. Beregond, driven beyond obedience by love and horror, strikes Denethor down. The steward falls, blood dark on stone. The fire is stamped out with cloaks and hands, servants burning their palms, screaming. Faramir is dragged away, coughing, alive. Outside, the siege falters. Orcs wail. Some flee as if their minds have been cut loose from a string. Men of Gondor look east and see Barad-dûr collapsing, a distant black spire folding into ruin. They do not understand how, only that something impossible has happened. In Rohan, Saruman's armies, already deep in the Westfold, suddenly lose cohesion. Some Uruks keep fighting because rage is habit. Others turn on one another. Wolves scatter. Eomer, battered and bloody, rallies men in the field with a roar that is half grief, half triumph. Eowyn, kneeling beside a dying child in the snow, looks up as the sky brightens by a fraction, and she feels tears freeze on her cheeks. "It is not over," she whispers, but she dares to breathe again. In Isengard, Saruman stands at Orthank's window as the wind shifts. He feels the snap of Sauron's fall like a cord breaking in his chest. For a moment, his face is blank, stripped of arrogance. Then rage twists him because his careful climbing has lost its ladder. He whispers, "Then I will be my own master." And in that whisper, another war is seeded, smaller than Sauron's, but cruel in its own way. On the slopes of Mount Doom, Gandalf, Sam, and Frodo crawl through ash as the world breaks. Frodo is barely conscious. Sam's face is blackened, lips cracked, eyes redrimmed. Gandalf's steps stagger. His wound from Shelob burns like a coal lodged under his ribs. The mountain's fury is relentless. Then, through smoke, a shape appears, vast and beating. Eagles. They come not as a simple rescue, but as a consequence. With Sauron fallen, the air itself is freer. The great eagles can fly without being hunted by an eye that sees all. They descend, wings buffeting ash into whirlwinds. Gwaihir, Lord of the Eagles, lands amid falling embers. His voice is sharp over the roar. "Gandalf, you have called too late." Gandalf's face lifts, and there is relief, yes, but also a quiet sorrow, because he knows the cost that has already been paid elsewhere. "Not too late," he rasps. "Take them." Sam clings to Frodo as an eagle's talons grip them gently, impossibly. Frodo's head lolls against Sam's shoulder. He murmurs, delirious, "It is gone." Gandalf steps forward, but his legs fail. He drops to one knee, one hand pressed to his side. The ash around him swirls. The heat on his face is like a fever. Gwaihir's great head tilts. "And you?" Gandalf looks back at the mountain, at the fire, at the sky that is beginning faintly to clear. He thinks of Theoden, still alive perhaps, but broken. He thinks of Faramir's near death. He thinks of Aragorn running without counsel, carrying kingship like a stone. He thinks of the Shire, untouched for now, but vulnerable to lesser evils that grow when great ones fall. He speaks softly, to no one and to everyone. There will be work. He rises, trembling, and climbs onto the eagle's back. As they lift into the air, Mount Doom erupts behind them, hurling a crown of fire into the sky. The shockwave chases them like a beast. For a moment, all that exists is wind, ash, heat, and the thin line between escape and annihilation. They fly west. Immediate aftermath brings relief, like cool water poured over a burn. People across Middle-earth feel it, even if they do not understand. In Bree, a man on night watch lowers his lantern and frowns as the oppressive weight in the air lessens. In the Shire, an old woman wakes before dawn and smells for the first time in weeks that the wind is clean. In Minas Tirith, the clouds thin. Use and sunlight breaks through in pale shafts, touching battered stone and blood-streaked streets. Men weep without shame. A child laughs, startled by her own sound. The white trees' bare branches tremble in the new light, and a single bud swells, as if it has been waiting for permission. Aragorn arrives at the city not as a stranger guided by a wizard, but as a leader who has had to become himself without a hand on his shoulder. He comes with Legolas and Gimli, with weary men, with banners improvised from torn cloth. He walks through the gate and sees the wounded, the burned, the desperate. He smells smoke and sickness. He feels the weight of a kingdom in every step. Faramir survives, saved by the rebellion of one loyal man and by a shift in the world's tide that Denethor did not cause and could not comprehend. When Faramir wakes, his first words are not about his father, but about the wizard. Did he succeed? He asks, voice a rasp. Aragorn answers, eyes steady. Yes. Faramir closes his eyes, and a tear slips out clean against soot-stained skin. Then it was worth it, he whispers, though he does not yet know what it includes. In Rohan, Theoden finally emerges from his hall, blinking like a man waking from a long illness. Without Gandalf's dramatic breaking of Wormtongue's spell, his return is slower, sadder. Wormtongue flees during the confusion of Sauron's fall, vanishing into the wild like a rat escaping a sinking ship. Theoden looks at the burned farms, the scattered people, and he understands too late what his weakness has cost. Eomer becomes king not through heroic succession on a battlefield, but through necessity and exhaustion. His coronation is in a half-burned hall that smells of smoke. He swears to rebuild, and the oath tastes like ash. Saruman does not fall with the spectacle of Ents flooding Isengard in time. The Ents do rise, eventually their anger slow but unstoppable. But by then Saruman has already sent agents north, already seeded spite into places that have never seen war. The transformed world is not a clean dawn. It is a dawn after fire. Gandalf returns, carried by eagles to the green edges of Ithilien first, where he collapses under trees that smell of sap and rain. He sleeps for days, fevered, the venom from Shelob burning through him. In his dreams, He hears the Balrogs roar, the Witch Kings scream, Denethor's whispered madness. He hears the ring's voice, though it is gone, and he wonders if scars ever truly heal. When he wakes, Aragorn is there, newly crowned in all but name, sitting quietly like a guard at a sickbed. The king's face is lined with fatigue. "You chose the hardest road," Aragorn says. Gandalf's voice is weak. "So did you." Aragorn's eyes sharpen. "Without you, many died." Gandalf does not flinch from the accusation. He looks out at the trees, at sunlight filtering through leaves. "With me, many still died," he replies. "The difference is only in names." Aragorn's jaw tightens. "Would you choose it again?" Gandalf's gaze turns inward, to the ledge over fire, to Frodo's voice claiming the ring, to Gollum falling with joy into ruin. He answers slowly, "Yes." That is the revelation that settles like cold water. Gandalf believes the ring's destruction was worth any cost, even the cost of his absence in the West's battles. It is not arrogance. It is the grim arithmetic of war against an immortal tyranny. Frodo and Sam recover in Minas Tirith, but Frodo's recovery is not like healing from a wound. He sits in gardens and flinches at sudden sounds. He wakes at night tasting fire. He looks at his hand and remembers it closing around the ring, remembers the certainty that it was his. Sam watches him with the helplessness of a friend who cannot carry another's nightmares. One evening, as the city's bells ring in cautious celebration, Frodo speaks to Gandalf on a terrace overlooking the Pelennor, where tents and fires dot the fields like a second city. "I failed," Frodo says. Gandalf's face is pale in the moonlight. "You bore what no one was meant to bear. That is not failure." Frodo's eyes fill. "I claimed it." Gandalf's voice is gentle but firm. "And then you were saved by a mercy you gave when it was not convenient." Frodo looks away. "Gollum." "Yes," Gandalf says. "The world was saved by a creature everyone wanted dead." Frodo's laughter is brief and bitter. "Is that meant to comfort me?" "It is meant to teach," Gandalf replies. He pauses, then adds more quietly, "It teaches me as well." Sam, listening nearby, clenches his jaw. He thinks of Shelob's tunnel, of Gandalf taking the sting meant for Frodo, of Gollum's teeth. He thinks of his own rage and of the times he wanted to end the creature. He feels, uncomfortably, how close he was to becoming someone else. In the Shire, months later, the shadow arrives late, like a revenge that missed its moment and comes anyway. Saruman's agents, leaderless but still venomous, creep north. Without Gandalf's earlier victories and vigilance, without his shaping presence around the borders, the Shire is softer prey. Ruffians appear on the roads. Trees are cut. Smoke rises from new ugly chimneys. The air smells of coal and greed. Hobbits who have never seen war learn the taste of fear. When Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin finally return, they find their home altered. Mud on once clear lanes, a sourness in the air, a quietness that is not peace but suppression. Sam's hands shake, not with fear but with anger. Merry's eyes harden. Pippin's mouth tightens. Frodo stands still under the party tree, older in his gaze than his years. The victory in Mordor feels distant here, as if it happened to someone else. They lead the scouring as in the true tale, but harsher because the ruffians are more entrenched. There are more of them. There are more graves afterward, small ones in soft Shire earth. Ordinary folk weep over sons who never left home, and yet died in a war that came to their door anyway. Saruman himself appears, diminished, bitter, his voice honeyed with spite. In this history, he has had longer to nurse his hatred. He looks at Frodo and sees not a hero, but a symbol of everything he lost. "You think you saved the world," Saruman sneers. "You saved nothing. You only changed the hand that holds the whip." Frodo's voice is quiet. "You are wrong." Saruman smiles. "Am I?" He is killed eventually by Wormtongue in a sudden frenzy, but the death is not cathartic. It is a sad, petty end for a mind that once could have built wonders. Wormtongue flees and is hunted down by hobbits with pitchforks and shaking hands, forced into violence by necessity. The Shire is cleansed, but it never feels innocent again. Gandalf visits the Shire one last time. He walks slowly now, as if the poison from Shelob left something behind that time cannot remove. He stands under the rebuilt party tree, planted by Sam with soil from Lorien, and he watches hobbit children play. Their laughter is bright, but it carries an edge now, a knowledge inherited from their elders' silence. Sam approaches, hands dirty from gardening, face lined but resolute. "Will it ever be as it was?" he asks. Gandalf looks across the hills, where the wind moves through grass like a hand smoothing cloth. "No," he says. Sam's throat tightens. Then what was it all for? Gandalf's eyes soften, so that it can be something else, something chosen. That is the thematic reflection at the heart of this altered world. Victory is not restoration. It is permission to build anew, as in a world that will always remember what it cost. The epilogues arrive like quiet footsteps. Aragorn becomes king with less guidance, but more self-earned wisdom. He rules with a wariness that never leaves his eyes, because he remembers how close the world came to ending without a wizard at his side. He honors Faramir, who becomes steward not as a pawn, but as a man who chose rightly when it threatened to ruin him. He rides north to Rohan, where Éomer greets him with a grip forearm to forearm, both men acknowledging the scars of a war fought half-blind. Éowyn does not marry in the same way. She has seen too much helplessness, too much delayed leadership. She chooses to heal her people, riding from village to village, tending wounds, listening to grief, building strength in quieter forms. When she hears songs of a wizard who walked into Mordor and took a spider's sting meant for a hobbit, she says nothing, but her hands pause over bandages and her eyes look far away. Frodo never fully returns. The wound in his spirit is too deep, the memory of claiming the ring too sharp. Yet he does not collapse into despair. He writes. He tells the story not as a heroic tale, but as a record of choices, of fear, of mercy's strange power. Sam becomes the Shire's steady heart, planting trees where smoke once rose, teaching children that courage is sometimes just getting up in the morning to mend what was broken. And Gandalf, the White now only in memory rather than in title, stands at the Grey Havens years later with Frodo. The sea smells of salt and wet wood. Gulls cry overhead. The air is cold and clean. The world feels wide again. Frodo looks at him. "You went with me." Gandalf nods. "Yes." Frodo's voice is barely a whisper. Was it worth it? Gandalf's gaze rests on the horizon where the sea meets sky. He thinks of Boromir dying with confession. He thinks of Theoden's delayed awakening. He thinks of Denethor's madness and Beregond's desperate blade. He thinks of Gollum's shriek as he fell, joy turning into annihilation. He thinks of the Shire's graves. He answers with devastating restraint. It had to be. Relief lives in the words because the world still exists. Disquiet lives there too, because "had to be" is the phrase of a man who has seen that goodness often survives only by walking through fire and coming out changed. The ship waits, white against dark water. Frodo steps aboard, Sam weeping softly behind him. Gandalf turns and looks back once at Middle-earth, at its green and its scars. As the ship pulls away, the last thing the shore sees is not a wizard's triumphant staff raised high, but an old man's silhouette shrinking into mist, while far away, on the black slopes of a mountain that has quieted, a single ember glows in cooling ash, as if something there remembers the fire.